Hello and welcome to this live webinar. Um, I'm glad that you all came here today to attend our first live webinar from the field of TCM psychology. My name is Tim Vukan and I'm the founder of Wushan TCM. If you haven't attended to our free introduction webinar before, I would like to give you a short introduction about what Wushan TCM is actually doing is distance education courses from China. So right now this course will be mainly taught in English. The next courses will be different because we will have a Chinese teacher next to us directly teaching the course into Chinese, and I will be the translator, giving direct translations into English and German. It will depend on the course. So today I'm very happy that you attend this course today about the 7 emotions from Chinese medicines, which is actually a concept from the ancient and modern TCM psychology. And I would like to give you an overview about the qualities, about functions of these emotions, which are slightly different to those what we are usually talking about in the West, because in the Chinese medicine, emotions, as we all know, coming from the 5-element theory, emotions are in connections with organs, with organ functions. So that makes it actually a very different concept when we are talking about happiness, anger, fear, all of those different things. First of all, before starting this course, I would like to give you an overview about the functions which you already can see on your screen. You have the choice to have the options of the full screen. I hope you all can hear me, can understand well, and that the camera is also working properly, and you can actually do some screenshots. If you take a look to the border, to the left part, you will find a button with a camera to make screenshots. No problems. If you miss some parts of this course and you would like to keep them, this live webinar will be recorded, and after some days it will be available online. As every webinar what we hold, if you cannot make it on time, because we do have the time difference, these webinars are always able to purchase for download some days later once the software is able to put them online actually. Okay, so I think we can start here our course. I don't want to talk too much about what we do. We already had this in our free introduction course, and directly start with the topic of this today's evening live webinar called the 7 emotions in Chinese medicine. Today I would like to give you an overview about the basic concept, about the different emotions, 7. We have happiness, anger, melancholy, thinking, sadness, fear, frightness. And I would like to give you an understanding about it, how these emotions are working in a relationship with the visceral essence, with the organs, and how they are actually corresponding. How we actually can learn more about our own emotions, to balance them, to recognize them, and later on actually, because we are all Chinese medicine practitioners, to use a psychology method, which is today actually the basic course, first about understanding about the basic functions, later on to use this concept actually also in our clinical work when we daily see patients. And back to the course. So I would like to give you actually examples on how excessive anger, excessive fright actually will influence our health, what will appear, and what we actually can do to prevent and to solve emotional disorders. So if we talk about the 7 emotions, what does it actually mean? What are the 7 emotions? And in this picture, you can see that the 7 emotions consists of joy or happiness or euphoria. That means too much happiness, to be euphoric, anger, melancholy, worry and thinking, sometimes also translated as pensiveness, grief, fear and fright, or terror or shock. So these 7 emotions are our main topic today, and as you can see, our course is also in connection a little bit with Chinese language, because I would like to explain what actually the meaning comes from this Chinese character. When we take a look, for example, to the first Chinese character in the red button, which is called xi, it means joy or happiness. Nu is translated as anger, and so on and so on. So we can actually see that most of these characters have something very similar here at the bottom. Over here, we have it over here, we have it over here, and over there, which actually is the meaning of the heart. So these emotions actually have something very clear in common. And we can actually say that all emotions are actually infecting the heart, influencing the heart, and we can treat them through the heart. So Jing, coming from the modern TCM psychology, like once again, this is the Chinese terminology for the 7 emotions. It is a very special concept, which was actually already found in the Meijing, where ancient doctors had discussions about it. So when we talk about an emotion, which we actually can say is an inner experience coming from the external environment and giving an external expression, is actually based on our individual psychological and physical state of mind. Are we in a very good mind? Are we not feeling well? Are we tired? Are we maybe already overworked? So all of these differences will also give a very different external expression, which actually decides what kind of emotion will be expressed. So we can actually see an emotion is not just happening, it is happening through us, but it is a process, and through this process I actually would like to show you how it starts, how we actually feel, what kind of syndromes are connected to each emotion, how we can actually prevent this emotion, how we actually can focus on certain situations when usually an emotion is influencing me, making me angry. We can get more understanding about it and actually prevent this kind of situation to be happen, which is actually causing I have a chance to constantly work on my inner ways of reacting to an outer experience. I can balance myself, I can relax myself, I can decide how I would like to respond actually to the external environment. And I would like to start with the first emotion tonight, which is happiness. So this Chinese character means happiness or joy. Qi. Yeah. If we put actually 2 of these characters next to each other, we will have the Chinese character for getting married, or the marriage. That means the double happiness. And double happiness, what could be better explained to actually get married? The man and the woman is having a very amazing feeling of feeling happy. So we can actually see that Chinese characters do have a lot of symbolic meaning. So we can actually not say that happiness or joy is actually a factor of catching a disease. No, it's always the excessive part that means too much of happiness or euphoria even is influencing our heart. That's why we can say joy is in connection with our heart. And it's about to to achieve something, about to desire something. If we still remember the World Cup, and if we look back to the final game where Germany was playing against Argentina, well, before that, actually, the German team was not that for sure that they will actually win the final game. So if they will actually react with too much happiness and too much euphoria, a lot of tension will releases and relaxes, and it's actually causing in losing concentration, what is actually a main tool in playing the final game. So if we are very over happy or very over excited about something, because we have the desire to achieve something, we also lose a lot of attention, a lot of concentration. For example, in the traffic, we are very happy about some news because our best friend was just becoming a new mama and is having a baby right now, and we are so over happy. So maybe we are not seeing simply the red lights, and we are not stopping over there, or we don't see the bicycle is crossing the street because we are listening out loud music. We are just in this feeling. So happiness is actually the experience of a desired object, which is taking part in our mind, and it's releasing this intense emotion, which is like pulling out, like going out, feeling very overexcited, feelings of joy, and in general case, this is actually a very healthy way of living, a very healthy state of mind. So there is nothing wrong actually. It would also not cause to a disease if it's not a very excessive state for a longer time, which can cause different kind of organ dysfunctions. So usually our body organs are filled, blood and chi are harmonious, so life is actually in good condition. That's why emotions are in our daily life a very necessary thing what we have. Our mind is clear and high attended. As I just said, like this is a good thing actually when the emotion is in the right field, but once it becomes an excessive or overstimulated, actually, we have to see that it's becoming a disbalance. So important is maybe for the German football game, for the German football team, like still to concentrate on their abilities and skills and not to be happy actually before they actually achieved something. So to lower actually down the desire. So actually also different kind of religions are talking about desire, which is actually hurting our heart. If you have too much desire, what the Buddhist people say, like you will easily get hurt. So what people do is try not to get dependent on material things of achievement, to focus on our, like, what is my achievement? Where do I have the focus of my achievement? Which is causing pain in our life. The next interesting emotion is the anger, and as I already introduced in this, like this Chinese character has at the bottom the character of the heart. That is this character what I'm showing you over here, and to be translated in the proper way, this means woman. This means like coming again or happening again, and this is the heart. So because a lot of emotional disorders in the past have been described with medical cases, and if it's women, because women are in constant changes of blood, especially with liver functions, liver qi stagnation, menstruation disorders, and so on. So it could be, I mean, I'm just guessing and seeing it out of this picture, that people in the past tried to explain actually anger and used this picture in using the woman which is often stressed simply because of body conditions. That doesn't mean men are not stressed. Men even can be even more stressed as well. But it might be one explanation what we can get from the past. So we can see that anger is in relation with our liver function. Anger is bringing us to a red hat. We are getting frustrated. We are feeling very uncomfortable. We are expressing our anger. We are shouting out loud. Actually, the functions are rising. Anger is disturbing the liver functions. Which is actually caused by a frustrated behavior, by a blocked frustrated behavior. And what could be worse actually for the liver qi? To be blocked, not to be in constant flow, which is actually the physiological function of liver qi, that it's all overrunning. In the evening before 11 o'clock, what the meridian clock is teaching us, we should actually get our rest. And if we are actually if we are actually experiencing a moment with anger, feeling stressed or frustrated, the blood is rushing upwards. So this is actually, again, leading to a stiff neck or a tensed feeling here, to very dry eyes, to feel like I cannot really breathe. I have like some blockation here in under my chest, and I cannot really breathe very deep. All of these syndromes are in connection with liver qi stagnations, where in emotion, such as anger, might be a reasonable factor to understand about it. So it's actually about the reverse flow of the blood, which is putting the liver qi into a disorder. We will have more information about anger, but this is first for you, just to give you a brief overview. We're coming to the next, to the melancholy, which is actually in connection with the lungs, especially right now. Our autumn time is beginning, and as we know from our 5-element theory, we all know that actually we have the wood, we have the fire, the earth, the metal, and the water. So these 5 elements are also in connections with 5 emotions. Here we have extra 2 emotions, but we also can say that, for example, the element of the metal, which is in connection with our autumn time, in connection with many other things like our skin, with very dry taste, the color gray or white, in connection with our lungs. And if it comes to the feeling of melancholy, about the emotional state of facing a problem, it's actually accompanied by a very low mood. This is actually what we also have to take care of in the autumn, actually, when the days are getting shorter and we are not really having a self-esteem to go out. Even taking a walk on a rainy, gray autumn day can actually lead all of us in a very low mood. So usually, as we said, like, these emotions are not leading to a disorder, are also not leading to a disease. But if it's happening over a long period of time, starting with mild depressions, going to chronic depressions, so we have different of these depression forms, what we can see, it is actually a main reason of catching a disease. So Chinese medicine, as you know, all you know, I'm very sure, is talking about the environment, is talking about the climate, is talking about the working environment, about the food, about our nutrition, about what we eat, about how we live, and also about our emotional state of mind. Are we balanced, or are we constantly in stress? So actually, the WHO is saying that in 2013, the depression will be the disease, or one of the disease, which is mostly seen on the world. And I can just say, like, from my Chinese life experience when we are working in the clinic that people are getting younger and younger. Like we have a lot of young people, they're 18 years old and they already suffer from chronic insomnia, thinking too much, not being able of releasing, actually when I go to bed I'm not using my mobile phone. Maybe it's also not so good to read or to think about things which makes me worry, which makes me feel depressed. All of these things actually leading to insomnia, leading later on for feeling like very tired or exhausted, even feeling like burnout. So emotions actually are very important actually to understand about their functions. So what we can see here is actually the loss of interest related with a low level of activity. That means no interest in life, for example, no interest in going out. And if we, for example, have a patient in our clinic and we can actually use the main 4 steps from Chinese diagnostic: Wang, when, Qie, like observing, interviewing, palpating, smelling, hearing. We can actually hear how is the patient talking to us. Is he talking in a very low voice, talking very slowly, not having a lot of energy? Is he maybe also walking very slow? His whole body appearance actually tells us that he might be in qi deficiency state, or might be actually, yeah, he appears very sad. So actually we already get from our body language a very clear idea what our organ functions may be like. The next character is very interesting to see. In Chinese it's called Si, and in English it can be translated with to be worried, overthinking, or pensiveness. And if you please take a look at the top of the character, which is the first part actually, the second at the bottom, again, if we remember, this is the character for the heart. The explanation would be the Chinese character Si consists of the part Tian. This is the character Tian, which means a field. For example, a field of corn. And the heart. We cannot only translate it as the heart or as the human heart, but it's more our attention or our thinking. Where do we put our attention? So in ancient times, people were worried and were thinking, were overthinking, and therefore very much worried of their fields, like, will the corn be alright? Will there be heavy rain? Will it maybe be destroyed? Which will actually cause a lot of worried feelings to the people, which is again in connection with one organ here. It is the spleen. The spleen is mainly responsible for our transformation processes. So all of things what we eat, actually, is it the grain? Is it the water? That has to be transformed through the help of the spleen in connection or in cooperation with the stomach to achieve actually our energy for our daily life. Especially at daytime, we use a lot of yang qi, and spleen qi deficiency actually is a problem of a blocked transformation. That means the spleen cannot transform our energy getting out of the grain and out of the food. So if we think about a transformation process, actually there is something which is blocked, something which is like a puzzle in our mind. For example, we are lying in the bed and we are constantly overthinking about one and the same question, all of the time again, but we cannot actually deal with the problem, neither we can solve it. So it's actually like a round circle. So we're actually thinking in a circle. We are starting, oh, what can I do? We are going all the way, but we actually cannot escape from this circle. So in our emotional state of mind, it's actually causing a disbalance and a problem, but also on our body functions, especially for the spleen qi functions, it's causing a disbalance. So in having this depressed mood, or in modern days, we often have also people who say like we have anxiety, or we have disease, which we actually can say, yes, they are in connection with emotional disorder, because we actually can say flow thinking activities is giving a problem to this pupil, to this student in the primary school. Actually, he cannot solve this question in 30 minutes of time, and we do have this study pressure everywhere in the schools. It's starting actually very slow. So maybe we have some worries what we bring actually from our parents' home in the school when we were teenagers. But actually students or pupils, they cannot perform what they should do, because they're still thinking about maybe the mother's problem or the problems with some other friends. And sometimes we really don't realize that this is not only an emotional state, but it already reached the organ functions, where we can say like the appetite from this student is also not really good. He looks a little bit yellow. He looks very skinny. He doesn't feel like doing anything. He feels like in very low energy. When he wakes up in the morning, his limbs, his whole body feels like very stiff, very heavy, a form of dampness in connection with spleen functions, dysfunctions, sorry. So we actually can see emotions and organs are in connection. Excessive thinking. We can explain it, it's also a pressure coming when we face the environment, or like a psychological burden, what we cannot solve. So the main idea is actually to transform this emotion, to transform my idea, what I have about this problem, but not constantly thinking all over again, like the spleen constantly tries to digest all of these food ingredients, but actually not having enough energy to do it, is the reason of the same problem. We are coming to the next emotion, which is called Bei, and one more time we can see that also this Chinese character is having the hard Chinese character at the bottom, and another one on the top, which is called Fei. Fei means like not, or not to have, or doesn't exist. And again, happiness, joy, can be translated as this character Xin in Chinese. So it's actually not being happy. So we are actually sad, or we are experiencing grief, which is in connection with the lungs, especially in the autumn time. So I already said, like, if you have time, go back to the 5 element theory, take a look what kind of seasons are in connections with the elements. For example, the heart element for the summer, the wood element in the spring, the metal element in the autumn, the earth element in the long summer, in the late summer, then would be the metal element in the autumn, and the last would be the water element in the winter. So if we take a closer look to the way of how we experience sadness, everyone knows that we become sad when we lose, for example, a loved person, or a thing pursued, or actually our desire gets shattered. You can actually see happiness and the sadness does have in common, they're all talking about the desire. So if we stick too much to our desire actually in our life, if we put our focus on material things, we will get hurt, which is for sure. So it's starting with different levels of sadness. Slightly sadness is actually, once again, not harming us, and an important feeling, what we need actually to stay human, because we are not robots which are not having any kind of feelings. So it's actually about losing something. It might be a person, a thing, which is leading to a broken desire. We are not achieving what we have, so we become sad. We are not actually digesting our sadness, so we stuck in the inside. We cannot really get out. It is in connection with a deficiency of qi, because lungs are uh, controlling the most body qi, and we can see that it's also in connection with our breath. That's why a lot of Qigong exercises, for example, are recommending you, if you have some respiratory disease, especially to practice between 5 and 7 in the morning, the time where the meridian clock actually tells you where it's best to nourish the lung meridian. So we actually can see that emotions have different functions, different qualities, and when we start to learn about it, we can first understand our own state of mind. We can learn how to balance ourselves, and later on actually also to help other people. This one is also very interesting. I cannot totally translate this Chinese character. It is called Kong, and it can be translated with fear, which is simply in connection with our kidneys. The kidneys are in the back. We should always keep them warm, especially during the winter time. And moments of fear is actually something what is causing us an unrest experience. If we always have to walk along this dark, narrow road, the problem is actually taking part in our mind, because we are imagining something what is actually not there. We are actually unable to manage this upcoming fear, because it's actually controlling our mind. So it's caused by external factors. It could be an experience, it could be something what we hear, what we see, and through the threat of powerlessness, that means not enough self-esteem to say, yes, that street is very dark and very narrow, but I know that is right now a problem which is taking part in my mind. It doesn't have anything to do with this street, so I can securely walk along that road. If we cannot make this step, actually, we experience this kind of feeling. And fear actually can keep us very small, can keep us away from our responsibility to say, yes, we always have to go out again, even though, yes, there are bad people, but why do we have to say this is actually taking away from my life quality right now? So we actually always have to think that we have to think how to get positive again, actually. Like in a state of mind which is ruled by constant fear is actually keeping us very, yeah, weakless, powerless, keeping us very low, and is not using our abilities. So, for example, through the training of martial arts, I was gaining a very healthy way of dealing with situations. For example, when we are in contact with people and we feel, oh, I might have some problem because this person is actually reacting in a very strange way, and I'm becoming actually frightened and already step inside this kind of victim position, which is actually pulling that situation even much more towards me. But for example, through the way of training martial arts, we are actually achieving a very healthy way of self-esteem. We know how to protect ourselves. We don't have to show it. We are also not going out to punch other people, but we know we have something in common, and actually we are expressing this feeling to the outside, which is changing our outer experience. So we are actually pulling something other towards us. More introductions in a couple of minutes. We are coming to our next emotion first, and then I will finish the first basic introductions to the 7 emotions. This Chinese character is called Jing, which can be translated as shock or fright or even terror. It is also in connection with the kidneys, and it is an emotional experience of like sudden, unexpected event. For example, a car crash, just in front of our eyes. Maybe people died, but a huge voice, and we're not breathing anymore. We are actually keeping this situation in the inside. Something is blocking, something is closing. We are actually not opening up. So we feel actually sometimes even days later, we still keep this kind of tense feeling, which is actually caused by something what is happening. But again, we are not pulling out the shock, talking about our fright, or finding a way on how to release this tense feeling. So you can see that emotional states of mind are very complex. We also cannot say that our state of mind is usually owned by just one emotion. No, we are actually having big mix of different kind of emotions. So yeah. I hope this was some introduction to something new, what you might heard before again, and I hope I could give you some slightly more insights about what are the 7 emotions actually are like. And we were talking about 5 emotions, which are in connection with 5 elements. Here we have 7 emotions, and we actually have even more emotions in our daily life, like love and hate, shy, or to be pride, or to feel dignity. So we actually can say that these emotions are the main groups which had taken, which were summarized in the ancient times. That's why we can find them in the Neijing, which is so-called the Bible of Chinese medicine. And if we have a patient in our clinic and we would like to use those concepts from TCM psychology, first of all, it is important to understand about the functions, about these emotions, what I gave you in this slide introductions, and to see that actually these emotions are in connections with our organ functions. That means if we have a case of spleen deficiency, we could put our focus as well on the emotions and actually interview the patient and ask him about his lifestyle, about if he has stress in family life, how does he actually feel, how is his appetite, and through this disorder of syndromes, what he is talking about, we can actually also see, okay, is there maybe a necessary part where I also have to focus on helping him to solve emotional disorders. A part which is also in China not that common anymore, and I've been to many clinics actually following different doctors in Hangzhou and in Kunming, and it's not often that actually Chinese doctors are straightforward asking for the emotional feelings of the patient, because usually Chinese patients are not talking very much about it. So if you ask them, how do you feel, or are you feeling stressed, or you're not really comfortable, they usually say like, yeah, I'm so-so. And then it actually depends on the doctor to go deeper and to see actually from the body language, and to see actually, especially in Chinese, from the way how people do express their discomfort feelings, what kind of words they express, to see certain connections with these emotions what we have. For example, yes, I'm really like always thinking how I can solve my life situation, and I'm really like hard in making decisions and hard really finding a new way, hard to channelize. So we actually can see, yeah, it is actually caused by overthinking. So sometimes we have to look behind the language, or we have to read between the lines what the patient is actually trying to tell us, because sometimes we all might be very shy if we go to see a doctor, and we have to have some tools actually to help the patient to be freely, to feel freely, to express his own emotions. Yeah. In Chinese clinics, we often see, for example, in the gynecology, blood flow disorders in connection with menstruation disorders are also influencing actually the emotional change. And a lot of women who have emotional disorders in connection with menstrual disorders uh, can be explained very clearly. Yes, menstruation is starting. Actually, we feel very tensed. We don't have a good mood. We feel like we are getting easy, like I could explode actually, like better don't talk to me. All of these things are helping us when we are prescribing herbal medicine, and when we prescribe actually also a way of how to solve psychology uh, matters. First of all, we have to understand very clearly, like that each of our emotions are in connections with our five tongue organs qi. Therefore, we have these examples. Too much sadness will hurt our heart. And if we look back to the character happiness and sadness, we could all see that it is in connection with the heart. Too much anger and depression will hurt our liver. For example, what I just said about the woman with menstruation disorders becoming very easy depressed, very easy feeling angry. Too much worry is hurting our spleen. About the example about the student sitting in class actually should fill out his work in front of him, but he actually cannot start because he's constantly thinking about other problems which he didn't solve, which he actually brought into class. So we can always say that an emotion, first of all, is not hurting if it's appearing for a certain of time. No, it's necessary because we are humans and we have to express our anger. We cannot leave it in the inside. It's also necessary to feel sad. I'm very sorry. But if it's too much, it will influence our organs, especially the heart. The heart is the master of all organs. It governs the soul and the will. That's why we can see many of our emotions are disturbing heart qi disorders, and if we know about it, we later on, when we come to the therapy principles, which is not part of this course, but actually the following, where we actually talk about how we can use these emotions to restrict another emotion, a very good way of having a psychology concept also for our clinical work. So I think I already talked about this. I think I will skip one or two slides. Yeah, as you can see, 7 emotions are the reactions to the internal and external environment. That means actually it is a process. When we realize when this process is starting, because we are facing a situation in the outside, we do have a chance actually to change our response, to feel angry like always, to feel like, oh, what shall I actually do? Like, shall I do that or this? To actually overthinking everything too much, or to be spontaneous and to say like, yeah, I think that's the way how I should do it, and I will try. I'm not 100% for sure, but I think I have to be very clear right now, because I always thought about these problems too much, and it was never actually leading me any further. It was always keeping me in this circle, and it was causing a lot of uh, nights without good sleep, and so on and so on. So we actually can learn how emotions are becoming a pathogenic pattern. So when we keep this, actually, we already have a lot. Chinese medicine is seeing the organs in connections with disorders. That means if we have an organ function which is disbalanced, it will cause a change in our emotional state of mind. It will cause, for example, liver qi stagnation. We're easily getting angry, easily feeling tensed, easily feeling frustrated. If we have an emotional disorder, for example, of like easily having fear or to be frightened in daily situations where usually people will consider, well, actually, if I use my clear mind, we don't actually have to be frightened. But if this emotion is very excessive and very strong, it can say that, yeah, we might have a kidney qi deficiency here. We might have a lack of organ function which is actually causing the emotional disorders. So these two parts are in connection and cannot be separated. Like a small homework for you, please keep in mind, if you not already know, that we have these 5 organs. First, put in connection with 5 emotions. Yes, we have 7 emotions. We have sadness and grief, which goes inside here. We have fear and fright, which goes in the category of the kidneys. So this course will be downloadable later, and you can always go over it. And some parts I would just keep for you to have a way of actually very quick reviewing certain contents. In the Neijing, and I'm very sure that all of you already had this great lectures about the Chinese Bible, we often say in the Chinese medicine, we have different kind of passages where ancient doctors already said too much joy and excessive sadness will hurt the heart. We have to add actually also the lungs. Excessive sadness will lead to depressive feelings. Maybe people are also smoking, or people in our society not really taking care of doing sports. So that means actually we have a short breath. Our breathing is not really smooth. So in our Apajao, we have the heart and the lungs, and we have those 2 main emotions, which could be a reason why these situations actually appear. Yeah, you can go through on your own the other examples, which are just some reviewing from before. And I would like slowly come to another part, which is called actually the movements of the emotions. And I would like to tell you more about how our emotions are reacting to our body. If we are receiving stress or anger, we already learned, oh yes, we have a reversal flow of blood. Anger is leading energy to rise, is leading qi to rise. Oh yes, we have sadness. Sadness is making the qi very slow, more like disappearing. And once an emotional disorder is taking place, we actually can say that the heart, the liver, and the spleen are the 3 organs which are playing a very important role for our mental activity. The heart is in connection with speaking, with talking, is in connection with our tongue. in connection with the summer. That means like we are going out, we are going to some parties, meeting friends. We enjoy talking and exchanging our mind. We feel happy, we feel overjoyed. And in ancient times, actually, we had a disease which was caused by constantly laughing. It was ending that also people died because of this. In modern times, we don't have this so much anymore. So we actually are not talking so much about joy and happiness. We are more talking about euphoria, about madness, about craziness, what suits more to our modern way of life. I grab one more example. For example, to feel over scared, it will cause restlessness, palpitations, insomnia, forgetfulness, and insanity. So if we can imagine, if we are like crazy happy about something, how can we get to rest? How can we sleep? In a state of a longer period of time, actually, we are easily having insomnia problems, not really being able to rest. There is too much yang qi actually disturbing our mind, disturbing our shen, which should calm down in the evening, because the night time is actually in relation with yin, when we more have the activity at the daytime. So we should reload our batteries, and therefore we also should think about if it's a case of, yes, like I feel like I easily get overexcited, I spend all my money in shopping, and I really have to drive myself crazy, which is for sure a very good way of relieving stress. But if it's causing a long time period behavior, it might lead to a disorder, such as too much worry. Persons who are constantly worrying about something, yeah, they might also not have good appetite, abdominal tension, loose stool. We all know this actually, because it is in connection with our transformation process, which has to go further. Spleen chi has to be transformed, and it has to send the chi into our limbs, into our legs, so we don't have cold feet at night, for example, in the evening, or cold fingers caused, which often because our digestion is actually very poor, so functions are really not enough to push actually our brain chi into our four limbs, actually what we need for our daily activities. So actually this process is blocked. There is no transformation. There is no transformation of our food. No, we are having a loose stool or we have constipation. This process is blocked, such as in our emotional state of mind. We cannot figure out what is the proper way or what is the way suitable for me to solve this certain problem. So we actually always opening it up, and again, all overthinking. We have feelings like pensiveness and so on. So we can see emotion and organ functions are very close related. Yeah, I already said I would like to talk about the qi movement, about our organs, which is actually a very important matter to understand also in our clinical practice, by taking the pulse. If we have a very wiry pulse, for example, and we say, first of all, yes, it can be in connection with liver qi stagnation. There can be status in the inside. There is simply a tension in the body. Emotions play a very important role. So irregular qi movement of organs is actually the result and the clinical manifestation when an emotion is actually harming our usually calm state of mind. And we can say that each emotion is having a certain function on how it is reacting to our qi, such as excessive joy or euphoria, which is actually leading the qi to get sluggish, to get very slow. So we already said that, for example, an absent mind caused by craziness or madness. If we imagine ourselves like driving in the car during the traffic rush hour, and we actually have no concentration. Actually, we have very difficulties to concentrate on other cars, on bicycles crossing from the left and right, especially from China. Actually, if in China you're crossing a zebra crossing, you have to put your heart chi directly next in front of you. That means you have to have your attention. It has to be there, to the left, to the right, to your back, from diagonal. It has to be everywhere, because cars are simply coming from everywhere. So if you are very overexcited, listening to music, singing out loud, you're just in this overwhelming feeling. You're simply not paying attention, and so actually your reaction is slowing down. The chi flow is slowing down. Shen cannot be concentrated, and in the very heavy state of mind, it actually also can cause delirium or frenzy, and it is also in connection with the sudden, with the sudden leads to sweat. For example, sweat is a body fluid which is in connection with the heart, and we have many different syndromes, and when we see some sort of these symptoms in our clinical practice, we can once again take a focus to these emotions and interview the patient about it to get actually a more clear idea what kind of emotions are involved, what kind of emotions I can choose to unblock to help to balance the patient's mind, state of mind. So we first actually have to understand what the emotion actually is causing, like excessive joy leading to making the chi feeling very sluggish or slow. Excessive anger is just the opposite, is actually leading the chi upwards. It ascends, it rises, it gives us a red head. We are feeling we're gonna explode. We have so much strength and so much tension at the same time, but we cannot release all of this, just caused by rage and anger, leading to this unregulated liver chi. So the blood flow is also flowing in the transverse direction. And we have syndromes related with headache, red face and eyes, dry eyes, very itchy eyes, especially in the morning, even fainting, abdominal pain or diarrhea. So here, of course, not only the liver is in connection with excessive anger. No, it can be also the spleen, also the heart. So it's always a complex, actually. Please don't understand it that these are separated to each other. No, each emotion actually is in connection with many other forms of emotions which appear at a certain time. So our problem as a practitioner is actually to find out where is the main point on how to help best, actually. Leading to chi consumption is actually caused by excessive sorrow, sadness, to feel actually that we have a lack of energy, a shortness of breath, chest distress, fatigue or laziness to speak, will make our heart anxious and cause actually a lung distension. Wei qi cannot disperse, actually the qi what we have outside protecting us from irregular climates, warming our body, and regulating the pores actually to be able to sweat. Sadness is actually very hard to treat on our own, because it is a very heavy emotion, which is coming with fatigue syndromes and a desire of releasing. So we actually have to open up, actually. We have to talk about what makes us feel depressed and to say, like, yes, I am sad right now. It is okay. You don't have to judge me, or you don't have to look very strange to me, because we all have these emotions. But I would like to go on. I would like to solve this mental issue. So first, I actually have to say that there is something in myself to be able to go on, to open up, actually. Excessive fear is actually leading the chi into turbulence. Another dysfunctions here, hurting the kidneys and leading to collapse or other pathogenesis. Main clinical manifestations, as we already saw, kidneys are in connection with the urinary system, with our knees, with our back pain, also with sexual functions. So we can see some examples over here, which is actually the movement causing a disbalance to the organ functions and leading us to a discomfort feeling, even more leading us to a disease. Yeah, the last emotion is excessive fright. We already talked about it, and it's leading the chi into disorder. We feel shocked. We cannot actually concentrate ourselves. We are out of our minds, but we are not really here. We don't have the feeling we are standing on the ground. We are shaking. We are bibbering. All of these things are in connection with the kidneys. And it's a sudden attack, actually, to the heart and to the kidney. It can be a panic attack. And it is also causing disorders in our consciousness. As we said, for example, if we are constantly imagining some situations where we feel afraid of, we can actually say, yes, maybe there is a lack of kidney chi deficiency, while strengthening kidney chi deficiency, while strengthening the kidney chi, we are actually losing the chi of feeling shocked, of feeling having a panic attack, because we are simply getting stronger. Yeah. And the last one is the overthinking, pensiveness, which is leading the chi to be knotted. Once again, something is stuck, which is in connection with spleen chi stagnation and the transformation failure pathogenesis, actually. So we feel like bloated after the dinner, after the lunch. We feel like there is undigested food. That's why we also don't really have a very healthy appetite. It is very poor. Abdominal distension, diarrhea, constipation. All of these things actually contain an information what we also can say about overthinking. Diarrhea is like not finding a solution. It is running out, like it's not under my control. Abdominal distension is caused when we think constantly overthinking one and the same question is actually causing a tensed feeling in our mind, which is holding us in this process. Poor appetite, that we simply don't have more motivation to go out, to learn about new things, actually to channelize, to transform our ideas, to put them into a field. For example, if I have a problem of, for example, I don't know what to do with my time. So I'm actually thinking only about how I can manage my day, how to find new subjects, but I'm actually not stepping into action. registering in a course for learning piano, learning how to draw oil paintings, or so on, so on. So it is actually holding us in a very passive state of mind because we are unable to make a clear decision. Yeah, so that's why we can see emotions and its related disorders are in connection with our internal organs. Pathological changes caused by emotional disorders are a complex, actually, variety of common disease. So each disease, what we actually see nowadays in our clinic, are accompanied by emotional disorders. That's why we can actually say that we not only have emotional stimulations, such as we feel depressed, insane, or craziness. No, we actually also have emotional syndromes caused by other reasons, such as diabetes or chronic liver and gallbladder disease, so which are always in connections. We cannot separate emotions from organ functions, and the same for organ functions which are in the disordered, unbalanced, pathogenic way, giving us an information on how we actually can understand why an emotion is appearing at this time. So during this lecture, I wanted to give you an overview of how we can actually first understand our emotions, about the different qualities, functions, to be able actually to recover from a disease. That means actually to learn to prevent certain situations, simply to be able to react in a different way to the external environment, to aggravate a disease. Of course, it also could be in this way if we actually ignore our emotions, and we say like that, we say that we are totally all right, we don't need any kind of help. So actually we are putting ourselves in a victim position, and sorry. We are closing up our internal world, our internal mind, and we don't see any kind of connections in our psychological behaviors, which might be the key actually to our disease, what we might have. So this course, the origins come from China, from my Chinese medical study, which I did since 10 years, usually living in Hangzhou, studying at the Zhejiang Chinese Medical University, but I also went to other universities, and I thought this course, especially coming from TCM psychology, talking about the 7 emotions, is a very interesting course for our modern clinical work, because we have more and more patients who go to see a Western doctor and who cannot get a clear diagnosis, actually, who say that the doctors told them that they are alright, but they are still suffering, actually. A lot of patients are suffering from psychology disorders, and I believe that Chinese medicine has a very good concept what we can use coming from the ancient times to understand actually about modern disease. If we can see the connections, if we can see how an emotion is actually appearing, why it is experiencing, what we can do actually to decide how our response is, because we are having this step to prevent actually a situation from being all over automatic until the until the way of we can actually start to treat emotional disorders by using a different emotion, which will be the main topic in our next course, which is talking about the inter-restriction therapy. where we take a closer look to each emotion and how it can be restricted by another emotion, performing the TCM psychology method. This is actually coming from my major, from my master studies in China. I'm having the research direction in towards the TCM psychology, and therefore I collecting a lot of cases, and I found that this is a very important and necessary part to focus on our clinical work. So I hope you enjoyed this course, and it will be downloadable in a couple of days. We will put it online, and feel free to take another look at it. If you have any kind of questions, what came up to your mind, like please don't hesitate to contact me, to send me your requests, and I'm happy to get into further exchange and contact with you. I thank you for your attention, and hope to see you on our next course. Until then, 再见 and bye bye. Have a nice evening.